Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Not bad. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good. It's dark where you are.
It is dark. It's the morning here. It's America, and the sun is just starting to rise. So I'm 5 hours behind you.
Yeah.
How is it there?
Here, it's now 11 o'clock. Beautiful sunshine here
Oh, lovely.
in suburbia.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know if you can see my suburbia. It's more hazy.
oh, nice.
But I did think it'd be nice if the sun comes up as we're speaking.
That'd be really nice. So, you've relocated from the city of New York.
Right, yeah. So we're in the Connecticut suburbs now. We came here almost 2 months ago now. And it's a house which we haven't lived in for a while, and it's cold this morning. That's why I'm wearing a big blanket. And we found a mouse yesterday.
Oh.
In the house, which we agreed was like a country mouse because it was really slow and calm.
Yeah.
And we're both, well, I feel like we're used to urban mice that are really aggressive and fast. So I was really surprised. I just dropped a colander on it and it didn't do anything. And I'm not used to that from a mouse.
You're used to hunting the urban,
Yeah.
quick-witted.
Or less humane methods of catching mice.
And are you
than a colander.
Are you on lockdown? Is Connecticut in the same sort of state of lockdown as the UK?
It is, yeah. It's. I assume that it's kind of similar to New York in terms of rules, but it's less busy where we are. So you can actually go for a walk, and there's actually no footpath where we are. So you just walk, and you're on the road, and then you see someone coming, and it's now kind of socially okay to cross the road. And like you'll wave at each other, and lots of people are just walking dogs, so it's kind of fun. I'm usually walking my 1-year-old son, so he loves dogs, and we've just made lots of friends, but from 30 feet away. But yeah, it's the same rules. We're not really supposed to go out unless it's for exercise, and we basically came here to be away from the city where lots of people were not really observing that rule.
It's not really been taken up in New York City.
Well, I think it has now. Probably 2 months ago, we certainly felt people weren't really taking it as seriously as they should be, and with a baby, it's kind of hard. We're in a fairly busy part of the city and near the park, and you just want to be able to go and have some free space and not have people, like too many people around. I mean,
you've got the luxury of that space and access to it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's my wife's parents' place, and they weren't here, so we just sort of feel like we're squatting.
Yeah, as I said, I've left London as well, and I mean, maybe that is part of your. Maybe it's a good thing for us, those that can come and stay with family outside the city, if there's a few less people in the city.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So how is it where you are?
In Manchester's fine. Yeah. It's very close to where I grew up, so I also can sort of. It's nice to learn a lot from my brother as well. He's a very strong sort of business character, and I'm obviously getting the luxury of time to, what do they call it? Spend some time working on the business rather than in the business. So getting to sort of think.
Say that. Sorry, that was breaking up a little bit.
So you get a chance to work on the business rather than in it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, for sure.
We've changed. Lots of stuff that's quite boring unless you've been running a business for 5 years without a clue to know what you're doing. So I've changed over the accounting system. completely. I've sort of relearned that, and I'm sort of touching base with some business coaches and making sure sort of stuff's okay, and so
Lovely.
It's quite sort of satisfying little adjustments I've been able to make. But yeah,
because you have time to step back and look at things.
Because it's on pause, suddenly there's not really any money coming in. I've tried to reduce the amount of money going out, and it's completely on pause. So it's
wow.
That never really happens. A chance to sort of refresh and reset yourself. And
sure.
I guess a big part of what DKUK does is making the discussions around art more everyday or more commonplace. So in a way, it's nice to leave the haircuts alone for a little bit and just concentrate on sort of that side of the business, and hopefully people can sort of learn, and for those that don't know, realise that actually we don't just cut hair, we're also that is a core part of the business, is making the discussions around it more every day. And I thought that these...
I really liked how you... Go on, sorry.
Oh, I thought this image we've got now is going to be the real visual of 2020, with every news pundit and politician just talking from home and on their phones, and there's something about that levelling that I really enjoyed. And as soon as I thought, well, we should talk to some artists and see what they're up to and how they're spending their isolation, you popped into my mind, because suddenly we can talk to anyone. The world's shrank.
Right.
Once we're all locked in,
I know.
Everyone is available, and even if they are 5 hours behind, and you felt a world away before, whereas now you feel as close as anybody else does. So that's get Patrick
That's definitely
Coyle
one of the
here.
best things. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things that has come out of this. That it makes it sort of, it does flatten the distance aspect between people. And I don't know about you, but I speak to my family more than ever now than I used to. We sort of speak intermittently, but we decided to actually schedule a weekly Zoom call with my family who are still in the UK. This is so it's really changed things for me in that way. But in terms of that visual thing you were just describing, I've been thinking a lot about the language as well, and how the Oxford English Dictionary releases the word of the year every year. So I imagine Zoom will be in there, probably Zoom as a verb, like to Zoom with somebody. I just keep thinking about, they release several words each year, or they introduce several words, but I'm interested to see, it was selfie a few years ago. It's I'm just interested to see how language changes as a result of this as well, and how we, because all the modes of communication have completely shifted, obviously, and the way we refer to those modes of communication has shifted as well.
Yeah, and furlough as well, another word.
Furlough, the classic, yeah.
The word on everyone's tongue and stuff, and
yeah.
So, have you got some stuff to show us?
For sure, yeah. I was actually thinking about, it's quite a nice connection talking about Zoom, in terms of how I suppose I started doing performances over video. Actually, before I moved to the US, often, I think it was probably, I was asked to do something in Nottingham and I was in London and I couldn't do it. No, actually it was, I was supposed to do a performance in London, and we were flying somewhere and we got stranded in Toronto because there was a storm. So I did the performance over Skype to the amazing Jenny Moore, who's a brilliant artist, had a show, Standpoint Gallery in London, and she had this amazing 5-person collaboration musical thing, which is even weirder because there was quite a delay on Skype in those days. This is probably 8 years ago. So it was funny to try and play music or sing or whatever I was doing with a lag, a Canadian lag. So yeah, let me share my screen.
Skype ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah, I guess it was just necessity, though. You know, it was.
Yeah.
There was no other way of doing it that way. I just have to work out how to share my screen. I'm just looking at settings. Oh, there it is. Nice. All right, how's that working?
Yeah, I can just see. Yeah, I can see your browser now.
Great. Where are we? So, I suppose the first, like a recent thing I was really thinking about, which is actually like a four-part performance, I think. Yeah, this one. Can you see those okay?
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
So this is something I started making in 2014 that's been on my mind just because of one line in it where it's the performance is set in the future, and I'm playing a person who has been incarcerated for some reason. It's never really made clear why, but the reality is that I'm working to pay off a debt, and I'm working as a tour guide in a fictional water bottling plant. So this began in Battersea as part of an exhibition at Pump House Gallery, and it started by the river, and I walk everyone through Battersea Park to the gallery, which is an old pumping station in the middle of Battersea Park. And there's just one line in it where I talk about, I refer back to an ancient time when people were still allowed to be social with each other, when they were still allowed to have physical contact in public. So it felt particularly pertinent.
How strange.
Yeah, it's weird, and I've remade it. So as I say, it's been remade 3 times, I think now. Yeah, the last one I did was actually in my hometown in Hull last year. So it sort of spanned 5 years, and I've just been working with the script for. It's actually just been. It was printed just before lockdown. The Cambridge Literary Review. I have like a version of the script, all 4 different articulations of the same script and how I delivered them in these 4 different places, because I rewrite the thing every time to be specific to the location. So I'll play a bit. I should explain. This is when I've already started at the river, and I've walked everyone through a dark park, and we're in some trees at the moment, which was interesting to navigate because there's quite a big crowd, and I always do it during sunset. So yeah, it was quite dark, and we were in a fairly creepy moment where everyone went quiet and it all felt a bit more nervous. So I'll just play that section.
More on water fillets further, but now for its gnarly tree such as this behind. Original use for the first of vesselry, known as its boat, which eventually evolved into bots we see now accustomed in the wars of late. Its primitive bots, called dugouts, was hollowed from burnt-up trees before trees were casinogen, often used the fire of control before its metal tools of digging invention. It's thought its primitive bot dugout design went large unimproved for years of 8,000 around until the water came unlivable and more recent sterile bot technol took over. It should note on walking this site, it's thought to once house large interpersonal recreational vast named Park. Here the records show ancient website rules of Park, and may it be it's non-imagined to nowadays, but Park was free for all in entry. Park was for use whatsoever way it wished. Park you could even breathe without cash charges and social up against real humans, all flesh to flesh in actual time.
So yeah, I mean, that was the part that interested me. I mean, I'm happy for us to just talk over the videos as we go. but yeah, it was that was the line that's been on my mind. Like I say, just the socialing up against socialing up in real flesh to flesh time, or whatever I said.
Go on, can you remember?
Because
the
it's
line
this.
again? No.
I mean, it's kind of set in a time when water will be a luxury commodity as well, and people are like struggling or trying to find ways to survive. So, yeah, there was certainly an interest in the like the ecological future of the world as well. So it was brighter than I remember. Like you can see, there's still sunlight as we walk through the woods, and then we go back into the woods. So yeah, it was quite a tour of the park.
That's so nice to see lots of people together as well, isn't it?
I turned the sound down then, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry, I couldn't hear you because I turned it down. Here we go.
Oh, I was saying it's so nice to see lots of people all together as well. I mean, it feels like a long way off before we're going to be able to get groups together again.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's really a big thing I miss, other than other things. But being able to gather people, even if it's just to talk in a strange language for half an hour, there's something like, you know, this kind of performance that when I've done that compared to a Skype performance, I've certainly always been very aware of the harsh difference between just being in a room talking to yourself versus a crowd. But yeah, it kind of it went through the park. This is me standing by a duck pond talking about how like describing birds as a mythical species or an extinct kind of animal. Sorry, I just slipped down on my chair there for a second. There we go. So yeah, that was the first version of it, and I kind of.
So you're like the narrator. It's sort of set in a virtual future.
Yeah.
And you're the sort of living embodiment of the narrator, taking people on this tour.
Yeah, I become this kind of ambiguous narrator where it's not really clear why I'm telling this story, and I mean, to me it becomes clear, but I think it's probably not that clear the first time you see it that I am this this person, like paying a I don't know what the word is, almost like paying a fine by doing this this tour, so like enforced labour basically.
Okay, yeah.
And it was interesting, I mean, especially in Battersea Park, because there are so many things to draw, and this is me talking about the Henry Moore sculpture. Like the idea of the Henry Moore sculpture being a commemorative piece to mark the deaths of a large amount of people who used to work on the water bottling plant. And then I ended up at the gallery, just like in the exhibition itself. Yeah, that's where that ends. I didn't want to spend too long on that, but this is the next version that I did in 4 years later in Wrexham in Wales in 2018. So I'll just show.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah,
Good morning.
I moved on technologically.
Move in close.
I wasn't able to bring that to Connecticut. I wish I had it now. It would be
Close.
much easier.
Dressing room for all. Move in close.
So talk us through.
Landlocked.
Are you broadcasting that to them, or is that just for recording purposes?
So that's actually like a portable voice projector, like a voice amplifier.
Oh wow!
Because the crowd, actually, this was a smaller crowd than the one in Battersea, but as it gets busier, I need something to project my voice, especially because I'm often in like busy places. Here's a different point where that might be clearer. I keep talking about the second moon and other fictional planetary things. This is an interesting moment as well when I'm waiting for the crowd to assemble. I usually walk ahead, which I hadn't really thought about before in terms of giving a guided tour. There's always this interesting non-performance mode where the keener people will follow you, and then you stand and wait for everyone else to catch up, and they might sort of make a bit of conversation with you, but because this was in a fictional dialect as well, I would try and make small talk in that dialect.
I see. Yeah, you get it.
That's me. I said it that way because it said library in Welsh, and about 7 of the letters had fallen down, so it's spelt Lebai Lefel. So I'm referring to monuments, as part of the tour, that some of them are actually there and some of them aren't, but that one was just a misspelled or like damaged sign that I made part of this kind of world of a water bottling plant again. And again, this one just spans through the city of Wrexham. This video's in several different parts, so it skips through many areas. I usually stop outside Waterstones because that's quite a significant part on the part of the tour. Anything with water or liquid in the name, I'll stop and talk about usually. There's a Weatherspoons that becomes what's the pub called? Weatherspoon.
Weatherspoons, yeah.
That became like Wetherspoon as well, and they were all to do with how the water was filtered to make this luxury drinking water. So yeah, Wrexham, and then I did it a few months later, I think, in Aberystwyth. This was part of a touring exhibition called Is This Planet Earth? That toured from Wrexham to Aberystwyth to Hull. So the performance I just took with the show kind of thing, just did it once as part of each exhibition. Amalgam's kind of the...
Oh, you got your running gear on in this one.
Yeah, I think I did in the last one as well. There's a sort of consistent uniform for each performance as well.
Yeah. Is that
they're
part
altered
of the guide?
slightly. It is, yeah. It's I think actually the first one I was a bit rougher. I was in shorts, but I wanted to look like I just emerged from a sewer. Like I sort of described that at parts throughout the performance as well. This one I had a headlamp on, actually. It's a little bit different. I don't know if I had that in the last one. Which also, this one was much darker, darker because it was dark, because the sun was setting, but also darker in content. But part of it involved me stopping by a river and digging something out of the ground, so I needed a headlamp for that purpose. But it was also an interesting visual.
But they're not
well.
It's not directly referenced to in the text. There's just like little subtle sort of cues.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that in the performance, other than something about not looking at my eyes. So again, the sort of socially restricted aspect of it was interesting. So I'd keep asking people not to make eye contact with me, which kind of also morphs into saying things like, don't let the water come into contact with your Google lens. Like, it kind of meant both things. It meant, like, don't make eye contact, but don't get contact in your contact lens, which is also a viewing device like a Google lens.
Yeah. And we can see the speaker there, just sort of the voice projector there hanging around.
Oh, right, yeah, that's the little speaker, yeah. Again, it's just a sort of borrowing from classic tour guide aesthetics.
Because I personally had not seen any of these. So you've seen documentation of them, but I didn't. I feel like there was a period I came to see a lot of your work, but I must have missed all this sort of series. I'm feeling bad for people who don't know your work, so I wonder if we can sort of give a whistle-stop tour or an introduction or something when we've finished with the...
Oh, sure, yeah. I kind of just dived into this because it felt relevant to the the social distanced moment. But yeah, definitely. I'll show this last one and then I'll go back a little bit to some older work. So this is the I don't want to say final, but it's the last one I did in Hull. And this is actually me speaking outside the pub. I'll just play a bit of that, but again, feel free we can talk over it or however it works. This is some awkward small talk.
Good.
But actually someone who didn't like the performance very much.
Who didn't?
Okay, clear.
Who didn't, yeah. She was complaining about the performance.
Bit closer.
Who didn't like it, sorry?
Just the person who was just speaking then. People are much more playful in Hull, and there was a lot more like back and forth, which I really enjoyed. But she was kind of like co-opting the language I was using, so she was trying to speak in the same way. It was actually a very creative form of heckling, where she was saying no smiles, meaning she didn't find it funny, or she found it boring, or
It won the first volunteering.
Culture.
Yeah.
To taste the liquid forms. Please ferment to not.
This person also asked to taste the thing I'd been carrying around, which was a brown liquid in a plastic bottle with a sort of sculpture that I made of a cup.
Makes contact with Google lenses. Good.
Oh, okay.
She's drinking it there.
Not on the premison, okay. Not regurgitation on premison.
Oh, okay.
Yes, of the poob. Good afternoon. This special erasing from ground bottle and stumption examples formerly glory, thought to ancient house of culture and on this.
How much of this one was written beforehand?
So when I kind of go into that monologue-y bit, that's being played to me in an earpiece. That I'm trying to like. There's a thing called verbatim theatre, where that's the main method. Often the actor hasn't heard the thing before they start performing it, and I love that idea of it being semi-improvised, of the material not quite being familiar enough to me yet, because I've usually just recorded that about 2 hours before the performance itself. Like I'll usually walk the route and talk to myself into my phone and use that as the script.
Nice.
For the thing.
Yeah.
How are we for time, Dan? Sorry.
We've done 30 minutes. We've only got 10 minutes left.
Oh wow. Okay. So
sorry. Please don't do that.
This is me improvising.
No, it won't happen again.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Al Wetterspoon Beverly aka Wetterspoon Poob. Good even moon. Good thanks. The sharp-eared youth might hear the wetter passing underground below of wetter river humble, of course it's best known, humble larger barium on sale now, al yon build and stanchion behind and where it aperium barium was once beveled and sampled using a silver spun, hence old name Wetterspun Beverly, where old.
So that's a good example of Wetherspoons coming in.
Where its beer was
I usually try and end close to a pub. This one ended up by the River Hull, and again I just kind of improvised with this. I think a life ring had been thrown in to the river, so I started pulling that out while delivering the script, and that just ended with me covered in mud, basically, in this hoodie. That the hoodie I'm wearing actually is photos of that part of the river where the mud is all cracked as well. Yeah. So everything kind of comes back to meet itself in a way. So yeah, I should probably talk about some other things. So yeah, I mean, I started making performances really in about 2010, like making live performances, often kind of, as I just touched on, like improvised or things I'd written just before the performance or on the way to the performance, like very stream of consciousness script. And yeah, that's like, this is me talking about some sculptures I made in a fairly improvised way.
They got together, those two twin towns, Violet and Ochre, and then raised up enough broth to stoke up the big rock on top of both. About 1 million lava minion vermins, millions of schools down the rotten roll, the molten hill down, river down.
I suppose if people are watching and struggling with the sound, you can just go on Patrick's website.
Yeah, if this doesn't pick up, you're right, this is just all from my... it's actually a Tumblr page. I can send that out after this. But yeah, so a lot of the things I started making, I mean, this is actually 2012, but a lot of it was me speaking about objects, kind of like constructing narratives around objects that either that I'd made or that I'd found. So yeah, you see, this was actually during a residency at Wising Art Centre. So a lot of them were just sculptures with stones and bits of mud I'd found nearby.
So it's just made of stones and mud. Is there some sort of plaster or something as well? Or?
Then that's this plastic substance that I've used a lot. That was also the cup I was drinking out of in the previous performance. That's it's called polycaprolactone, which is a moldable plastic. It melts at about 60 degrees, so you can just pour hot water on it and add. This is with probably watercolor or oil paint added, and yeah, I guess I've sort of always had that interest in unusual substances as well. This is also
weird.
Like it's also like an improvised speech over the top of this
Dangling at the bottom, hanging, lapping like a little hanging tongue.
I mean, I should explain that this
bottom,
is
bouncing the bottom.
This video was showing in an exhibition at the ICA in 2015, and so this is on a big monitor on the wall in the show while I'm doing a performance, and there's lots of other things in the room as well, but this was one thing that I kind of fixated on and started talking about, semi-scripted.
It began as rainbow slime and it settled in the stomach for quite some time, and at the shop tender's own admission the colours ran into each other and became dirt purple, which is presumably the colour of light. Of course, that makes it a combination of the 7 colours. That makes it dream water, which in fact is clear at the end of the day. Having issues shutting around at the end of the day, wake up randomly throughout the night at the end of the day, have an upcoming flight at the end of the day, sleep naturally, drug-free, wake refreshed, snooze briefly. Those are 5 colours of our cipher bets, so all ground up and all ground down again. They were first ground up in a rotten pot in a pan. A potpuree. That was really
there was a piano I had a piano in the exhibition, so I was kind of singing this song about lapping the side with the piano.
Lapping the side, shimmering right, lapping the side.
Yeah, music is very important as well. I think I certainly start writing lots of things as a result of earworms and just things going around in my head constantly, also feels very relevant to this socially distanced moment where people might feel more inside their own heads than usual, with your own thoughts and not speaking to real humans in person very much.
And when did the writing come into it?
I think. So.
Had you always done both objects and writing?
Yeah, I suppose again that kind of happened around 2010. I did an MFA called art writing at Goldsmiths, and that was really a big part of making that kind of work. It was the first year of the course, and there were only 6 of us on it, and it was just a very lovely group. We actually formed a collaborative group for a while afterwards, and I guess everyone's main interest was well, I can't speak for everyone's main interest, but a lot of people were interested in writing about objects as a form of art in itself. So sort of crossing over between art criticism and more of a creative act.
So there's people on the course doing both, writing about art and writing as art. It's not around that course anymore, is it? Quite short-lived, wasn't it?
I think it lasted 4 or 5 years, which it was nice to be sort of part of that moment, but it's also, it was interesting as to whether it was just kind of, I don't think it was ever claiming to be identifying some kind of new movement. I think it was just identifying something that had been around for a long time and needed addressing, which is like artists who use language and writing in their work and wanted to focus on that more than on, I don't know what the right term is, visual art.
Stuff.
Objects. Yeah. So most of us were writing about objects instead of making them. This is the video I made at DKUK when I think I just recently moved to America, and this was on Skype, as most people are now, or rather on Zoom, but I don't think Zoom was around then, so this was really fun, for me anyway. I don't know about the people in the room, but it was fun to make a script that was all just based on me eavesdropping on people's conversations. So I did already have a bit of a script, but I interspersed it with what people were saying in the room before and during the performance.
So we had, off the top of my head, it was open on, the microphone was open at the private view, and you were listening in, weren't you, and sort of creating the script that you were going to read for your performance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But people didn't really know that was happening, and then they were like, the performance starts at 8:00, and then it already had sort of snippets of stuff overheard in the preview.
Yeah, exactly. And the performance, I did it 3 times across the evening. So some people stayed for all 3, and they kind of became aware of what was going on. And it became very self-referential, of course, because people would be talking about the last performance, and then I'd be typing what they were saying about the performance. I won't show too much, but again, this is all on this website, Tumblr page. I'm just gonna go to, how long do we have left? Like 5 minutes?
Coming up, winding up. We're on 41, so we might get kicked off any time.
Oh, wow. Well, really quickly then, this is some stuff I've made very recently since lockdown times began, which is just, a lot of it's really to do with being in lockdown and working from home. Working from home is the first thing I made. Cancel everything, which was just the phrase I was hearing everywhere. These are just little watercolours, because that was really all I had with me. I don't have a studio, so I was just making these at home, temporarily closed. That's the mute sign from Zoom, actually, which again feels relevant. Infection breakfast, because I was sick for a while and on medication, so that was just all the stuff I was taking for that. How are you during is just isolation, shopping for the lockdown. And then, so we have a 1-year-old, so this is just the result of me homeschooling our 1-year-old and drawing with egg crayons that he loves throwing on the ground, because I'm teaching him animal noises at the moment. And then we have a different colour every day. So today's green day, that's why I'm wearing green jacket and hat. And yesterday was yellow day, so this is... That's him saying yellow, I think, for the first time, and colouring in.
This is very DKUK, having a colour-themed day.
Do you have colour-themed days?
Well, it's more for Daniel rather than DKUK, but yes, I tend to have dress a certain colour for a day. Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't realise that.
Yeah. Today's red.
Do you make that public?
Yeah. Well, it's very obvious because that's the outfit I wear is always the same colour.
Oh wow!
But
I had no idea.
One colour tends to go on for a few days now. 2 or 3 days. Yeah, I'm quite excited. I've just bought an Apple Watch, and that you can change the face of it, so I'll even be able to have a watch now that changes with the outfit.
That's lovely. Wow, that's so funny.
So nice to be able to work at home as well. Good to see words still there. And have you got plans for these? Is it more something you're making for yourself, or?
Yeah, definitely. This is more for myself, but something that's sort of...
We've got Instagram. These are on Instagram, yeah.
This is all on Instagram, yeah. It's sort of... it's definitely still related to what I do, because it's to do with words that are going through my head, or it's ways of navigating an internal monologue, or like an earworm of sorts, even if that's just like playing with a familiar word of yellow, or the more like the phrases we've got used to hearing, like out of an abundance of caution. And it's also just necessity, because all I have here is like watercolour pens and egg crayons. And I haven't... The sort of intermittent aspect of not knowing when we're all allowed to go back to work and to our homes means I'm sort of reluctant to buy too much new stuff to make stuff with. I've enjoyed the restriction.
Yeah, and it's partly why I wanted to just chat to people such as yourself and see what difference this is all making. And as I said,
I think it's a lovely thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for...
I also loved what you...
agreeing.
Just like things... Oh, pleasure, yeah. Like the thing you did about trimming your fringe, just because everything I see on social... Like half of what I see on social media is people cutting their own hair and being nervous about it and weird about... Like, I've always cut my own hair. I mean, it looks terrible, but I'm used to that. It was really fascinating to see many people worried or laughing because they got their partner to do it and it looked terrible. So it was lovely to see some help with that.
From the pros. Maybe you should record a video. We should share your valuable knowledge on how to cut your own hair.
I don't think I'm getting a job at DKUK anytime soon. But I did. I once made a video of myself shaving a mustache in college. That's probably my earliest performance work. Was just shaving and just an interest in like how we present ourselves and masculinity. And the mustache was quite a sort of became quite a motif for me when I was in art school doing a BA fine art. But yeah, lovely. It's funny. I also like the restriction of 40 minutes.
I think Zoom. It's good, isn't it? Yeah. I'm going to show you quickly the photo I found of the first thing
Oh,
we
right.
did at the pop-up of DKUK just before we leave.
Brilliant.
How do I... No. I'm going to stop you from sharing mine. Can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so funny. With
There we go.
Ilona having a haircut.
So this is Ilona Cigar, who we also did an exhibition with a few years later.
Yeah, of course.
Here's Patrick. And in a way, it was quite similar to the other performance you did. We were very interested in what happens in a hairdresser's and the discussions and the performative element of cutting hair. And it was this day particularly I realised how much of a performance cutting hair really is.
Yeah.
Because I think having you there, who knew me, didn't know me as a hairdresser, you'd never seen me cutting hair. I was quite aware of what I was saying because I knew that you were listening in and it was going into me making this work.
Right.
And there's a certain persona that I take on as a hairdresser, and I still do it now, even now I'm aware of it. But yeah, I remember this day you were in, you sort of you spent a few hours there, didn't you, sort of listening and collecting some of the conversations, and then went away and wrote this wonderful story about the coconut that we're doing.
Yeah.
Did you know you brought the coconut with you, didn't you?
I bought a coconut at Waitrose around the corner from where the salon was at the time. It was at Ancient and Modern. That was the first salon, wasn't it? That was like a pop-up.
That was a pop-up
version of what you now do permanently. And it was a very hairy coconut, so I was just thinking about hairy fruits. But the thing that was on my mind with that and the later performance was gossip and the idea of like the connection between grooming and gossip, both things that we've done historically as mammals that are forms of social bonding. And there's a theory that as we lost our hair, as we went from apes into humans, the thing that replaced us grooming each other and looking for nits in each other's hair was speech, was small talk. And the way that we socially connect now is verbally connect is a replacement for how we used to physically connect. And I see hairdressing as the remnant of that ancient practice.
That's so nice. It's such a nice idea. Yeah.
Because it really is where a lot of people have their big conversations. I mean, you could talk about everything in a hair salon or nothing.
Yeah, I think it's a very undervalued profession in a way. It's kind of often looked down at the hairdressing and beauty industry. But that's such a nice way to put it. That fulfills a really important role in society.
Absolutely.
And perhaps that's why people are going a bit stir crazy now, 6 weeks in, if you're used to that relationship you have with your hairdresser or beautician. You know, I'm missing all my lovely clients. I see them much more than I see my friends, you know.
Right, yeah, sure. Well, especially if you have regular clients. Like when you have
seen people every
repeat
6 weeks, 2 months, you know.
Yeah, wow.
And so that's a really nice way to link it back into the history of our species.
Yeah, there are some amazing books about, like there's one that's, I think it's called Grooming and Gossip, and it's all about that shift as apes into speaking humans, and it's a really lovely sort of mythology. Again, I don't even know how true that theory is, but it's one that really connects with me as someone who's interested in like things that might first appear as small talk but actually end up being really significant and valuable.
Yeah.
As well, because like the very casual conversation you might have in a salon can end up being very meaningful to somebody. I mean, especially now, like you say, now we don't have it. I think people probably, hopefully, are more aware of how valuable it is. Like
I've
just
certainly,
that casual conversation.
yeah, we mentioned this before we started recording, but I've certainly found a huge difference in talking through this medium from what I do day to day, as talking while I'm cutting people's hair, which is much more a discussion and with back and forth. And I've really struggled with the Zoom of just this idea of projecting into a room with nobody physically there. I found it very difficult.
Right, and we were talking about that difference between being like face to face as you are in Zoom, and the very simple fact with hairdressing that you're both facing the same way. It's a very different, like, lateral way of interacting with somebody. Like I was saying, I'd rather go for a walk with somebody than have a face to face conversation with them, because I think more can happen. Basically, I think it's like. I don't know how to articulate it, but it's like it's a more casual way of interacting with someone, but actually I think you can end up having a more serious conversation at the same time.
Well, I guess at DKUK the clients aren't looking at mirrors, they're looking at the artwork. So perhaps we've been doing a bit of talking about this recently, and I see it similar as going for a walk or having a shower, which is less of a social thing, but
right. But because because your brain is in a different place. Than
you're semi-occupied with something else. Yeah, there's something to slightly distract you from the moment. So perhaps that makes for a nicer or more relaxed experience. And
a haircut is a
conversation. Yeah,
it's also a shared task. It's like we've both worked. You and I have worked together in jobs where we'll be doing a task at the same time, and some of those conversations are still incredibly meaningful and memorable to me, and I remember what we were doing at the time as well. It's like the conversation is intrinsically linked to the act we were doing, whether that was like hanging a picture or moving a heavy piece of sculpture or something. Like I remember the first time you and I really connected, we were hanging these paintings that were on vinyl covers. And because we were doing that naturally meant that we started talking about our own work, because we were hanging out work for someone else. So we were like, oh yeah, I've done stuff like this. I like this because of this. I don't like this because of this. Without that like shared task and shared visual, it wouldn't have been the same connection. I don't think it wouldn't have been the same. Certainly wouldn't be the same like depth of conversation than if we were just like plonked in front of each other and told to talk to each other.
Yeah, it's so much less pressure, and just the sort of part of the brain that perhaps worries about, am I doing the right thing? How am I looking? Am I uncomfortable? That sort of questioning brain is sort of occupied with something else, maybe. But I've never really thought about the haircut as a shared task. But of course it is. Hairdressing has a very high job satisfaction rate, and I think it's because you're successfully completing multiple tasks in a day and making people feel good, and making people happy. You know, that's
Of course, yeah. It's
shared,
the ultimate collaboration, because one of you is collaborating with your own body. I mean, it doesn't get more of a shared task than that.
That's so nice. Oh well, we've run over, but that was we better pull a plug on it before.
Is it still going, Zoom?
I think so. I hope so.
I was going to say, just cut everything where I showed my own work, because then we got into a really good conversation. Like, you know, it's a funny thing. It takes a lot of talking till we talk.
Oh well, thank you so much for agreeing to this, Patrick, and it was so
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Up with you.
Yeah, same. It was brilliant. Thanks for everything you're doing with DKUK.
Oh, no, thank you for all your wonderful thoughts and brain, and sharing it with everybody.
Pleasure.
All right, we'll see you soon.
See you soon, Dan. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.